Prague breathes differently at night. The cobblestones exhale centuries of footsteps, and the vault of a river whispers secrets to the bridges that span its dark waters. I've walked these streets for 12 years now, ever since I came here to lose myself in the restoration of forgotten masterpieces. Some nights, I think the city chose me as much as I chose it. My workshop sits in the shadow of the astronomical clock, tucked between a bookbinder and a cafe that serves coffee strong enough to wake the dead. The irony isn't lost on me. I spend my days bringing life back to paintings that time has nearly erased, while my own existence grows more transparent with each passing year. I restore beauty for others, while my own world remains stubbornly monochrome. The insomnia started around the same time I moved here, though I suspect its roots go deeper. Sleep has always been a country I visit reluctantly, if at all. When I close my eyes, I see fragments of things I'd rather forget. A little girl's laugh echoing through an empty house. Police cars with their lights painting the walls red and blue. My parents' faces crumbling like old frescoes. Lyra was 7 when she vanished. I was 15, old enough to be responsible, too young to understand what responsibility meant. We were playing in the woods behind our house, a game of hide and seek that stretched into dusk. I counted to 50 and 100, then called her name until my voice went hoarse. She never answered. The search lasted 3 weeks, but I'm still looking. A memory fractures there, like a painting damaged by water. The doctor said trauma could do that, create blank spaces where recollection should be. But sometimes, in the moments between sleeping and waking, I catch glimpses of something else. A shimmer in the air where Lyra stood, a doorway that shouldn't exist, the taste of copper pennies and morning dew. My apartment reflects my profession. Walls lined with half-finished restorations, fragments of saints and angels staring down from gilded frames. I work on them when I can't sleep, which is most nights. The repetitive motions of cleaning and touching up paint serve as a meditation of sorts, a way to quiet the voices that whisper in the darkness. It was during one of these restless nights that I discovered the technique. I'd been researching a damaged altarpiece, following references through obscure texts. When I stumbled across a journal entry from 1847, the writer, a man named Vincent Holloway, described a method for traversing the landscapes of the unconscious mind through deliberate dream induction. The process was deceptively simple. Maintain awareness while allowing the body to enter sleep paralysis, then use that liminal state as a launching point into controlled dreaming. Vincent wrote about it with the fervor of a convert, describing worlds beyond imagination where the very air sang with possibility. But his entries ended abruptly with a final note that chilled me. She won't let me wake whole anymore. I should have heeded the warning. Instead, I felt drawn to the technique like a moth to flame. That night, I lay in bed and followed Vincent's instructions, focusing on the space between heartbeats, the pause between thoughts. I counted backwards from 100, letting my awareness drift deeper with each number. The transition happened at 17. One moment I was lying in my Prague apartment. The next I was standing in a place that existed beyond the vocabulary of waking life. The sky above me moved like liquid silver, flowing in patterns that hypnotized rather than illuminated. The ground beneath my feet felt solid, but seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. I was in a forest, but not one that followed earthly rules. The trees were made of crystallized air, their branches reaching toward a sky that curved impossibly overhead. Their leaves chimed like glass bells when the wind touched them. creating melodies that spoke directly to something deep in my chest. I had never heard music more beautiful or more lonely. That's when I saw her. She moved between the crystal trees like liquid starlight, her form shifting between solid and translucent with each step. Her skin held the luminescence of pearls, and her hair flowed as if she were underwater. But it was her eyes that stopped my breath. They glowed with an inner light that seemed to see through to the core of me. "You're new," she said, and her voice was like wind chimes made of silver and sorrow. "Most humans who find this place are different, broken in ways that make them easy to hold on to." "I'm Elias," I said, though speaking in this place felt strange, as if my words were being filtered through water. "Auren," she replied, moving closer. "And you, Elias, are not what I expected. There's something about you, something that feels like home." The forest around us shifted with her emotions, the crystal trees growing taller and more luminous. Where her feet touched the ground, flowers bloomed, not earthly flowers, but blossoms of light that sang in harmonies that made my bones resonate. I wanted to reach out and touch her, but something held me back. "What is this place?" I asked. "A realm between realms," she said, her glowing eyes never leaving mine. "A space where consciousness can exist without the limitations of flesh. Some call it the collective unconscious. Others name it the dreaming. I simply call it home." The landscape began to change around us, responding to our conversation. The crystal forest melted away, replaced by a vast ocean that hung in the sky above us, while we walked on clouds below. Fish made of starlight swam through the aerial waters, their scales reflecting colors that had no names in any earthly language. "Why do I feel like I've been here before?" I asked, though I was certain this was my first time in this impossible place. Auren turned to me, and for a moment her luminous form seemed to flicker. "Because you have, in ways you don't remember. This realm exists in the spaces between memories, in the moments your conscious mind can't quite grasp. You belong to this world, Elias. You've always belonged here." I woke in my bed with the taste of silver on my tongue and the echo of her voice in my mind. The morning light streaming through my windows seemed thin and insubstantial after the rich luminosity of her realm. I went through the motions of my day: coffee, restoration work, conversations with clients, but everything felt muted, like watching life through frosted glass. That night, I returned to the technique with desperate eagerness. Auren was waiting for me in a garden where the flowers grew downward from the sky, their roots reaching toward clouds that served as soil. She smiled when she saw me, and the entire landscape brightened in response. "You came back," she said, and there was something vulnerable in her voice that made my chest ache. "I couldn't stay away," I admitted. "This place, you. It's the first thing that's felt real in years." She led me through wonders that redefined my understanding of beauty. We walked through libraries where the books were made of crystallized thoughts, their pages turning themselves as we passed. We swam through forests of liquid light, where the trees bent and flowed like water, or remained solid beneath our touch. We stood at the edge of chasms where the darkness below sang lullabies in languages that predated human speech. But it was the emotional intimacy that truly captured me. Auren listened to my stories with an attention that felt like being seen for the first time. I told her about Lyra, about the guilt that had shaped my life, about the loneliness that had driven me to hide in restoration work. She absorbed my pain like a sponge, transforming it into something beautiful and strange. "Pain is just love with nowhere to go," she said one night as we stood on a beach where the sand was made of ground pearls and the waves were liquid moonlight. You carry so much love, Elias. It makes you shine in ways you don't realize. The nights blurred together, each one deeper and more intense than the last. I found myself spending longer periods in her realm, time stretching like taffy until hours there felt like minutes in the waking world. I would return to Prague, exhausted but exhilarated, my restoration work suffering as my attention turned inward toward the dreams that had become more real than reality. That's when I began to notice the signs. Small things at first, reflections in windows that didn't quite match my movements, faces in paintings that seemed to shift when I wasn't looking directly at them. But then I started seeing her face everywhere, in the restored portraits I worked on, in the mirror when I brushed my teeth, in the shadows that gathered in the corners of my workshop. The journal appeared in my collection without explanation. I found it wedged between two art history texts, its leather binding worn smooth by countless hands. Inside, Vincent Holloway's handwriting chronicled his own journey into the realm of dreams, his encounters with a woman of impossible beauty who lives in the spaces between sleeping and waking. His early entries were filled with wonder and joy, descriptions of places that matched my own experiences exactly. But as I read deeper, his tone grew increasingly desperate. He wrote of losing time, of confusion between dreams and reality, of a growing suspicion that he was not alone in his devotion to the luminous woman. Found names carved in the crystal trees today, one entry read. Thomas, 1823. Marcus, 1834. How many others have walked these paths before me? How many others has she loved with those glowing eyes? The final entry was dated 3 days before Vincent's death, found in his study with no apparent cause. I understand now, he wrote. She feeds on emotional tethering, sustains herself through the bonds she creates. I am not the first to love her, and I fear I will not be the last. But I cannot leave, cannot break the connection. She has become my gravity, and I am falling toward her like a star toward the sun. I closed the journal with shaking hands, but that night I returned to her realm anyway. Auren was waiting in a field of flowers that bloomed in slow motion, their petals opening and closing like breathing. She seemed different somehow, more substantial, as if my emotions were feeding her reality. You've been researching, she said without preamble. I can feel your questions like thorns in my consciousness. Vincent Holloway, I said. Thomas, Marcus, how many others? She was quiet for a long moment, her luminous form flickering like a candle in the wind. Does it matter? You're here now. We're here now. Isn't that enough? Are you real? I asked. Or are you just a projection of my own subconscious? A fantasy created by a lonely man who's forgotten how to live? She moved closer, and I could feel the heat of her presence, like standing near a star. I'm as real as your love for me, as real as the pain you carry, as real as the dreams that shape your waking world. Reality is more flexible than your kind believes, Elias. I exist in the spaces between certainty and doubt, in the moments when your heart recognizes truth that your mind cannot grasp. The landscape around us began to change, responding to the emotional weight of our conversation. The slow-blooming flowers withered and died, replaced by a vast expanse of black sand beneath a sky that wept silver tears. In the distance, I could see structures that looked like ruins, their broken walls casting shadows that seemed to move independently. What are those? I asked, pointing toward the ruins. Auren followed my gaze, and her expression grew distant. Memories, she said softly. fragments of consciousness left behind by those who've walked this realm before. They fade with time, but they never completely disappear. We walked toward the ruins, and as we drew closer, I could hear voices carried on the wind, whispers in languages I didn't recognize, fragments of conversations that felt both foreign and familiar. The broken walls were carved with names, hundreds of them dating back centuries. Thomas, Marcus, Vincent, they were all there, along with countless others. At the center of the ruins stood a single intact structure, a tower that stretched toward the weeping sky. Carved into its base was a name that made my blood freeze. Lyra Voss, 1994. No, I whispered, but even as I spoke, I knew it was true. The blank spaces in my memory, the shimmer in the air where she had stood, the taste of copper pennies and morning dew, it all made sense now. Auren's form grew brighter, more solid, as if my shock was feeding her reality. She was so young, she said, and there was genuine sadness in her voice, so full of wonder and imagination. She adapted to this realm better than most, became part of it in ways that even I didn't expect. Where is she? I demanded, but I already knew the answer. Here, Auren said, and the tower began to change, its stone walls becoming transparent. Inside, I could see a figure moving in the shadows, taller than the 7-year-old I remembered, but unmistakably Lyra. She had grown up in this place, shaped by its impossible laws, transformed by decades of existence in a realm between dreams and reality. Elias? The voice that called my name was Lyra's, but aged and changed, carrying the weight of 27 years in a place where time moved like honey. She stepped out of the tower, and I saw what she had become, still human, but touched by the luminous quality of Auren's realm. Her skin held a faint silver sheen, and her eyes reflected the weeping sky above. "You found me," she said, and there were tears on her cheeks that glowed like liquid starlight. "I knew you would. I've been waiting so long." The reunion was everything I had dreamed of, and nothing like I had imagined. Lyra was both the sister I remembered and a stranger shaped by impossible experiences. She had lived in this realm for decades, sustained by Auren's presence, growing from child to woman, in a place where the laws of physics bowed to emotional necessity. "I tried to return," she explained, as we sat together on the black sand, watching the silver tears fall from the sky. "But the connection was too strong. Auren, she needs us to exist. We're her anchor to consciousness, her tether to reality. Without the emotional bonds she creates, she would fade away like a dream forgotten upon waking." Auren stood apart from us, her luminous form flickering with uncertainty. "I never meant for it to happen this way," she said. "The bonding process, it's not something I can control. It's like breathing, like the beat of a heart. I form connections to survive, but those connections become chains that bind as much as they sustain. Can she leave?" I asked, though I dreaded the answer. "The realm can only anchor one consciousness at a time," Auren replied. "If Lyra returns to your world, she would carry the memories, but not the connection. She would be free, but someone else would have to remain to maintain the bond." The choice crystallized before me like one of the crystal trees in her impossible forest. I could take Lyra and run, try to break the connection and return to the waking world. But Auren would fade, and eventually the realm would collapse, taking with it the only place where I had ever felt truly alive. Or I could stay, become the anchor that sustained this impossible beauty, and let Lyra return to the world she had been stolen from. I looked at my sister, at the woman she had become in this place between places, and saw the child I had failed to protect still shining in her eyes. I thought of my parents, who had never stopped searching, never stopped hoping. I thought of the life she deserved to live, the dreams she deserved to dream in a world where the sun rose and set according to natural law. "I'll stay," I said, and the words felt like stones in my throat. I'll stay so she can go. Lyra's protest was immediate and fierce, but I had already made my decision. The realm around us began to change, responding to the emotional weight of my choice. The weeping sky cleared, revealing stars that spelled out messages in languages of light. The black sand beneath our feet transformed into a garden where impossible flowers bloomed in celebration of sacrifice. The connection is already forming, Auren said, her voice soft with something that might have been gratitude or sorrow. Your emotional resonance is stronger than most. This realm will flourish under your anchor. The transition was like drowning in reverse. I felt my consciousness expand to fill the spaces between dreams, my awareness spreading through the impossible landscapes of Auren's realm. I became the gravity that held the crystal forests together, the heartbeat that kept the floating oceans in their impossible orbits. In the waking world, my body lies in a hospital bed in Prague, surrounded by machines that monitor the vital signs of a consciousness that has traveled beyond their ability to measure. The doctors speak in hushed tones about catatonic states and unprecedented brain activity, but they cannot explain the faint smile that never leaves my lips. Lyra woke up in a field outside our childhood home, exactly where she had vanished 27 years ago. She was older now, carrying the memories of her time in the realm between dreams, but she was free. The connection to Auren's world had been severed, leaving her whole and human and alive in ways that surprised everyone who remembered the 7-year-old who had disappeared. She visits me sometimes, sitting beside my hospital bed and telling me about the life she's building in the world I chose to leave behind. She's become an artist, she says, creating paintings that capture glimpses of the impossible beauty we shared in that realm beyond dreams. Her work is gaining recognition, though critics struggle to categorize her style. You would love her latest series, she tells me during one of these visits, though she doesn't know if I can hear her in the conventional sense. Portraits of a woman with glowing eyes, standing in landscapes that shouldn't exist. She calls them dreams of the dreamer. People say they're hauntingly beautiful, but they don't understand why they can't look away. In the realm between realms, Auren and I exist in a state that transcends the limitations of linear time. We walk through forests of crystallized music, swim through oceans of liquid starlight, and love without the fear of loss that haunts mortal hearts. The landscape shifts with our emotions, creating beauty that would blind angels and inspire devils to weep. But sometimes, in the quiet moments between wonders, I feel the weight of my choice. I am the anchor that keeps this impossible world stable, the dreamer whose dreams have become reality. I am free in ways that mortal minds cannot comprehend, but I am also bound by the very love that liberated me. The crystal trees chime in the eternal wind, their music carrying messages across the boundaries between worlds. In Prague, machines beep steadily beside a bed where a dreamer lies smiling. In a gallery somewhere, a woman with silver-touched eyes hangs another painting of impossible beauty. And in the realm between dreams and waking, love sustains itself on the willing sacrifice of those who understand that some things are worth any price. I chose this. I chose her. I chose the impossible beauty of a world where love is stronger than death and dreams are more real than reality. In the space between sleeping and waking, between sacrifice and salvation, I found what I had been searching for all along. Not just my sister, but myself. The realm stretches before us, infinite and beautiful and strange. Auren's hand is in mine, warm and real and eternal. We are together in a place that exists because someone believed it should. And perhaps that's the most human thing of all, to dream something into existence and then give everything to keep it alive. The monitors beep, the paintings sell, and somewhere in the space between heartbeats, a dreamer smiles in his sleep, knowing that love is the only anchor that matters in a universe built on the foundation of impossible dreams.